Imagine a plant so valuable, it was worth its weight in silver.
Really? Silver?
Yeah, and used as a cure-all for, well, practically everything. And maybe, just maybe, it's the reason we use the heart symbol for love today.
Wow.
Now imagine this plant, this vital thing just vanished 2 millennia ago. Its extinction is like a warning echoing from the past. Welcome to the deep dive.
Today, we're plunging into the really remarkable story of Silphium. It's this enigmatic, ancient herb that, well, it profoundly influenced the classical world. Our sources for this deep dive, they come from a pretty comprehensive scientific and historical review. We're exploring its legend, its mysterious disappearance, and yeah, the recent kind of tantalizing claims that maybe it's been rediscovered.
And this isn't just a story about some old plant. It's really a story about us, about human civilization, economics, medicine, our whole relationship with nature, really.
Yeah.
All wrapped up in one, frankly, astonishing mystery.
Okay.
Let's delve in. So let's start right at the beginning. The incredible impact Silphium had back then. We're talking about the Greek colony of Cyrene, right? Around 631 BCE, modern-day Libya. What was its role there? How did it shape Cyrene?
It's actually quite amazing. Cyrene's entire economic history is, well, you just can't separate it from this plant.
Yeah.
Silphium grew wild, but only in this remarkably narrow ecological niche.
How narrow?
Like a strip of land, maybe 125 miles long, 25 to 35 miles wide, just there in Cyrenaica.
That's it?
That's it. So this strict geographical limit, plus this just insatiable demand all across the Mediterranean, it created this incredibly lucrative monopoly for Cyrene.
And the wealth, it was just immense, wasn't it? I read it funded like huge urban development,
Okay.
a famous medical school, even a school of philosophy.
Absolutely. And the resin, they called it laser or laser piscium. It was literally sold for its weight in silver denarii, sometimes considered even more valuable than gold.
More than gold.
Yeah. Think about this. Julius Caesar, during his civil war, he withdrew 1,500 pounds of laser from the Roman state treasury. Yes.
Yeah.
Right alongside the gold and silver to fund his campaign.
So that really tells you Rome saw it as, I don't know, like a fungible asset, just like precious metals.
Exactly. And they signaled its importance, too, for what? Over 3 centuries, most of Cyrene's silver coins had a detailed picture of the plant right on them.
The coins themselves.
Yep. And these numismatic depictions, they're invaluable for us now. They show this thick, sort of striated stalk, celery-like leaves, and this distinctive fruit or seed pod. There's even an ancient Greek vase showing King Arcesilaus II overseeing slaves weighing sacks of silphium, loading them onto a ship.
Wow.
But if you connect this to the bigger picture, I mean, this total dependence on one single finite resource.
Yeah.
It created this spectacular boom, sure, but it also, crucially, sowed the seeds for a catastrophic bust.
Right.
It's a powerful historical precedent, really, for the resource curse that still affects, many modern economies.
That's a sobering thought. A 2,000-year-old warning about relying too much on one thing, still playing out today. But, okay, beyond the money, Silphium was revered as a cure-all. What made it so special in ancient medicine?
Its reputation was truly legendary. You look at the big names, the most respected medical and botanical authorities back then: Hippocrates, Theophrastus, Dioscorides, Pliny the Elder. They all wrote about its medicinal uses extensively.
So what do they use it for?
Oh, everything. The resin, the stalk, the roots. They were used for this astonishing range of treatments: coughs, sore throats, fever, indigestion, warts, aches and pains, goiter, sciatica, toothache, intestinal problems, epilepsy, tetanus, polyps, even malignant tumors.
Malignant tumors.
Seriously.
That's what they wrote. Hippocrates used it for hernias. Pliny, he cataloged 39 distinct remedies using it.
39.
Yeah. It was even believed to be like a direct gift from the god Apollo.
Wow, a divine gift. Okay, but there was one property that really jumps out to modern scholars, right? Something pretty sensational for the ancient world.
Absolutely. Its most, let's say, sensational property was definitely its use as a powerful anti-fertility agent.
Anti-fertility, like birth control. Exactly. Cyrannus of Ephesus, he was a physician in the 2nd century CE. He advised taking a dose about the size of a chickpea once a month.
To do what?
To induce menstruation, prevent conception, and his words were, dissolve any already existing implantation.
Wow. So that's led modern scholars to suggest it might have been the ancient world's most effective oral contraceptive, and maybe even an abortifacient.
That's the suggestion, yeah. It's pretty stunning.
Okay, so it was basically ancient birth control.
Mm-hmm.
But how widely accepted is that specific claim now? Is there any nuance there?
Well, it's crucial to contextualize this, you know? While this use was clearly known, documented by these top medical authorities, some modern analyses argue maybe its prevalence got a bit exaggerated after it went extinct.
No,
I
right.
suggest maybe its main role, before the Romans really got involved, was more as a spice and a general health tonic.
Yeah.
However, the fact that authorities like Dioscorides and Serenus consistently mention its effects on menstruation, that does lend pretty significant weight to its use in reproductive health. And then, just to make it more complex, it was also widely seen as an aphrodisiac.
Wait, an aphrodisiac and a contraceptive.
Exactly. A fascinating paradox, isn't it?
It really is. But apparently, this ancient lore has some new plausibility. I read about recent studies on Ferula druidiana. That's the plant something might be Silphium,
Ah, yes, Misiski's work.
right? And they found compounds that can partially help with erectile dysfunction. And didn't Professor Miskis see insects drawn to the sap starting to mate?
That's the observation, yes. Insects getting frisky right after encountering the sap. It adds another intriguing layer.
So beyond the pharmacy and the treasury, how deeply was Silphium woven into just like daily life and culture? Was it more than just a commodity?
Oh, absolutely indispensable, especially in the kitchen.
In food?
Yeah. The stalks were eaten like a vegetable, the roots fresh. And that pungent resin, the laser, they grated it over everything. Lentils, sure, but also things like scalded flamingo.
Scalded flamingo.
Apicius's Roman cookbook. It's full of mentions.
And it sounds like its ubiquity even popped up in ancient comedy.
It did. Aristophanes, the Greek playwright, he captured it perfectly. There's a character just casually demanding, hand me the grater, bring the Silphium, you, now then, the cheese.
Huh. Just like asking for salt and pepper.
Pretty much. And when it started getting scarce, cooks turned to asafoetida, which is related but apparently tastes inferior. It just tells you how much they missed the real thing.
Okay, but maybe the most, I don't know, potent symbolic legacy. The connection to the modern heart shape. Tell us about that. That's wild.
This is truly captivating. You look at silver coins from Cyrene dating back to the 6th and 5th centuries BCE. They depict the plant's seed or fruit, and it has this very distinct heart shape.
The seed looked like a heart.
Exactly. So given all its associations, love, sexuality, and especially contraception, many scholars propose this image on the coins is the direct origin of the symbol we use for love today.
Wow. So the heart symbol could be like a cultural fossil,
Yeah.
an echo of this lost plant and how the ancient world thought about romance, maybe in a more pragmatic, pharmacological way.
It really could be. It's an incredible thought. The Roman poet Catullus, he even references it in his famous Carmen 7. He kind of weaves together themes of infinite love, sexuality, the plant itself, and its contraceptive side.
So it was all tangled up together in their culture.
Deeply embedded, yeah.
Okay, let's shift now to the ultimate tragedy of Silphium, its disappearance. By the end of the 1st century CE, it's often called the first species extinction in written history that we know was caused by humans.
That's the common understanding, yes.
For almost 2,000 years, the story was mostly about greed. Right? What did the classical accounts say happened?
Pliny the Elder, he gave the most dramatic account, famously declared that only a single stalk had been found in his entire generation.
Just one.
Just one, harvested and sent off to Emperor Nero basically as a curiosity.
Wow.
And ancient writers like Pliny, they blamed overharvesting and also overgrazing. Apparently, sheep and goats that ate it had more succulent meat.
Oh, lovely.
So it was often framed as this classic tragedy of the commons, everyone exploiting it until it was gone.
Were there other theories back then, too?
Yes, a few. Some blamed Roman provincial mismanagement, saying it got worse after they took over from the Greeks, who apparently had some regulations Theophrastus mentioned. The geographer Strabo even suggested maybe local shepherds who weren't getting rich off it intentionally destroyed the roots out of resentment.
Okay, so the classical story is very human-centric. Greed, mismanagement, maybe even spite.
Exactly. Fundamentally anthropocentric. But a modern ecological look at it, sort of a post-mortem, it suggests things were probably a lot more complex.
How does modern ecology complicate that simple greed narrative?
Oh, it suggests that, yes, direct human pressures were definitely a factor, but they were likely amplified, maybe significantly, by human-caused environmental change, anthropogenic change.
Oh, okay.
Remember, the plant was known for being wild and stubborn. It resisted cultivation. It only thrived in that very specific, narrow, semi-arid steppe habitat.
Right, that extreme specialization.
which made it exceptionally vulnerable. And the timeline of its decline, it seems to correlate with widespread deforestation and the expansion of agriculture in Cyrenaica.
What did it lead to?
Accelerated desertification, less reliable rainfall, more unstable temperatures, soil erosion. Essentially, they unintentionally engineered localized climate change.
So they were undermining its habitat while also harvesting it. What's the specific insight from modern botany here?
Botany gives us a really critical piece of the puzzle. Now, obviously, we can't test ancient Silphium itself.
Right.
But its closest relatives that we know today in the Ferula genus, including that Ferula druidiana we mentioned,
Yes.
they require something called cold stratification for their seeds to germinate.
Cold stratification. What's that?
It means the seeds need cold, moist conditions for several weeks, kind of like simulating winter before they'll sprout.
Uh-huh. And why is that so important?
Because it provides a really powerful scientific explanation for why all those ancient attempts to cultivate Silphium failed. If the local climate was warming or becoming drier, especially in winter,
The seeds wouldn't germinate.
exactly, they simply couldn't grow new plants, even if they tried.
That completely reframes the extinction, doesn't it? It wasn't just that they picked all the adult plants.
Right.
It's that no new ones were growing to replace them.
It becomes this deadly convergence. You've got direct exploitation removing the adults, and then this indirect environmental destruction stopping the next generation.
So it's arguably the first recorded climate-induced extinction. Wow. What a lesson.
A powerful one indeed. And just quickly, there's another alternative theory. Maybe Silphium was a natural hybrid plant.
A hybrid.
Yeah, its hybrid vigor might explain why it was so useful, but its genetics would mean if seeds wouldn't breed true. So you couldn't cultivate it reliably, and the original wild stock was irreplaceable. Once it was gone, it was gone.
Okay, so for nearly 2,000 years, Silphium was just this ghost, this legend. Then, 2021, Mahmut Misisi, professor at Istanbul University, publishes research suggesting a rare Turkish plant, Ferula druidiana, is the lost Silphium. How did that potential rediscovery even happen?
Well, the story starts way back in 1983, actually. Miski first encountered this plant on Mount Hasan, that's in Cappadocia, central Turkey.
Okay.
Decades later, he started connecting it to the descriptions of Silphium. The plant populations are really small, found in these isolated, kind of protected spots, often near old Greek villages.
And that Greek connection is a key part of his theory, right?
It is. The idea is maybe ancient Greek colonists or traders somehow transported seeds or maybe rootstock from North Africa over to Anatolia. And these high-altitude spots in Turkey happen to mimic the climate it needed. Archaeobotanists like Erica Rowan, they find this idea credible. Plausible, at least, and the fact it survived in these maybe protected gardens away from widespread grazing, it gives a possible narrative for how it might have persisted there, hidden away.
It's quite a story. So what's the most striking evidence? What are the parallels between this F. druidiana and the Asian descriptions?
Well, the most immediately compelling thing is just the physical resemblance, how it looks compared to ancient texts and those coin images.
How close is it?
The overall morphology, the shape and structure, it's a really strong match. It's a tall perennial herb, grows up to maybe 2.5 meters. It's got a stout, hollow stalk, distinctly striated, with lines running down it, celery-like leaves, big yellow flowers.
Okay.
And the root system is also very compelling. It's thick, branching, kind of like ginseng, covered in black bark. And when you cut it, it exudes this aromatic resin, just like Theophrastus described Silphium doing.
And the coins.
Yeah.
You mentioned the striated stalk. Was there something else specific on the coins?
Yes, crucially, the coins seem to show an opposite arrangement of the foliar branches. That means the leaves emerge in pairs, directly across from each other on the stem.
And is that common?
No, it's actually quite rare in the Ferula genus, but F. druidiana has it.
Wow. Okay.
And then, of course, there's that distinctive heart-shaped fruit or seed pod shown on the coins. It's perfectly mirrored by the papery, inverted, heart-shaped fruits of F. druidiana.
The visual match sounds incredibly close. What about how it behaves? Its ecology, does that match?
It certainly seems to. It's notoriously difficult to transplant and cultivate. That aligns perfectly with all those ancient accounts of failed attempts to grow Silphium elsewhere.
Right.
And Masuski's research specifically confirmed its seeds need that cold stratification we talked about. Weeks of cold, moist conditions to germinate.
Providing that scientific reason for the ancient failures again.
Exactly. And it also apparently shoots up really quickly after heavy spring rains, which echoes ancient accounts of Silphium appearing suddenly after something they called a black rain.
Okay, so the modern plant looks like it, acts like it. What about the medicinal claims? Does F. druidiana's chemistry back up Silphium's ancient uses?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, too. F. druidiana contains at least 30 distinct secondary metabolites. These are natural compounds plants produce, often for defense, but they can have medical uses.
And these compounds line up with Silphium's reputation.
Many of them do, yes. They show potential for anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and, yes, contraceptive properties. Specifically, compounds from F. druidiana show strong cytotoxic activity, meaning they kill cells against cancer cell lines in lab tests. That could validate those ancient claims about treating malignant tumors. Studies on related Ferula species also confirm anti-fertility and abortifacient properties exist in the genus. And for the aphrodisiac reputation, root extracts have enhanced sexual behavior in male rats and even shown promise for alleviating erectile dysfunction.
So the chemistry, the ecology, the morphology, it all seems to converge quite compellingly.
It does seem that way on the surface.
Yes. Despite all that, you said the hypothesis hasn't really gained widespread acceptance in the scientific community.
Right.
Why not? What's the skepticism about?
Well, the biggest, most immediate challenge is the geography and the history. Ancient sources are just unanimous. Silphium grew only in Cyrenaica, Libya, period.
Right.
F. druidiana is found hundreds and hundreds of miles away in the mountains of Cappadocia, in Turkey. It's a huge disconnect.
And that whole Greek connection idea, if they had successfully transplanted such a valuable plant to Anatolia, wouldn't we know about it? The economic incentive to shout about it, to export it, break Cyrene's monopoly, it would have been immense.
Precisely. Yet there is absolutely zero historical record of Silphium being exported from anywhere other than Cyrene. None. Plus, the hypothesis directly contradicts ancient writers like Theophrastus. He explicitly says attempts to transplant Silphium to other places, like mainland Greece or Syria, failed.
Implying it was extremely sensitive to its environment.
Exactly. Which makes the idea of it easily establishing itself way over in Anatolia seem problematic.
Okay, so history and geography pose some big hurdles.
Yeah.
But you mentioned genetics earlier. Is that the strongest evidence against it?
For many scientists, yes. Modern phylogenetic analysis, basically using DNA to build the plant family tree, provides the real scientific backbone of the critique.
What did the DNA show?
A molecular study back in 2018 showed that all the Ferula species we know are native to North Africa belong to one distinct evolutionary group called the Mediterranean clade, like a specific branch on the family tree.
Okay. And F. druidiana.
In stark contrast, Ferula druidiana falls squarely within the Central Asian clade. Its evolutionary roots are completely different.
So the DNA says it's not a North African plant that got moved.
That's what the genetics strongly indicate. It suggests F. druidiana is a native Anatolian plant. Its ancestors came from Central Asia, not North Africa. It's not a displaced remnant.
Wow. So even with those amazing visual similarities, critics are saying looks can be deceiving. Genetics tells a different origin story.
That's the crux of it. Critics point out that morphology, the physical form in the Ferula genus, can be tricky because of something called convergent evolution.
Convergent evolution.
Yeah, where unrelated species independently evolve similar traits because they face similar environmental pressures or fill similar ecological roles. So relying only on a visual match, no matter how striking, is considered weak evidence if it's contradicted by robust genetic data.
And in science, genetics usually trumps looks for figuring out ancestry.
Generally speaking, yes. Phylogenetics is seen as more powerful than morphology for determining evolutionary relationships.
So if you weigh all the evidence together, where does that leave the F. druidiana hypothesis?
Well, when you weigh everything, the compelling circumstantial evidence from morphology and chemistry on one side versus the unanimous historical accounts of its location, and, critically, the contradictory genetic data on the other.
Yeah.
The hypothesis rests on some really fascinating parallels, but it struggles against the historical and genetic facts. Without finding actual ancient DNA of Silphium from Libya to compare, the scientific consensus remains skeptical.
So the most likely explanation is
The most plausible explanation right now is that it's a truly fascinating case of convergent evolution, a different species that, over time, evolved strikingly similar traits to the lost Silphium, which actually makes it a powerful analog, maybe our best living model for understanding the lost plant, even if it isn't the plant itself.
Okay, so regardless of whether F. druidiana is the true Silphium or not, this whole renewed interest in the legend seems to present a unique opportunity. What paths forward has this research opened up? for maybe identifying it, conserving what we have found, or even new medical uses.
Absolutely. This renewed interest has definitely helped clarify, what would it actually take to definitively identify the true silphium if it were ever found? A kind of multidisciplinary checklist has emerged.
Okay, what's on the checklist?
Any candidate would really need to pass 5 key criteria. First, genetic proximity. Its DNA has to show it's closely related to that North African group, the Mediterranean clade of Ferula species.
Right, the genetics have to match the location.
Second, morphological fidelity. It has to physically match those key features we know, the stout, striated stalk, that opposite leaf arrangement, the heart-shaped fruits.
The visual confirmation.
Third, ecological congruence. It needs to thrive in that semi-arid, steppe-like environment. It should be difficult to cultivate. Its seeds likely need that cold stratification. It has to behave like silphium.
Makes sense.
Fourth, phytochemical signature. It must produce that pungent resin, and that resin needs to contain bioactive compounds consistent with silphium's ancient effects, anti-cancer, contraceptive, whatever they might be. The chemistry has to fit the legend.
Okay.
And fifth, geographical plausibility. Ideally, it should be found in or near its historical range in Libya. Or, if found elsewhere, there needs to be really compelling, verifiable evidence for how it got there translocation.
That's a very clear roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even if F. druidiana isn't the original, it sounds like this plant itself is rare and valuable and needs protection.
It absolutely does. It's only known from 3 locations in Turkey. It's already threatened by people collecting it and by grazing. And all this recent publicity about its supposed aphrodisiac properties. That poses a new threat of overharvesting, too.
Right. Unintended consequences.
So this means we really need robust international ex situ conservation programs, growing it safely off-site, like in botanical gardens, and understanding how to cultivate it is key.
And we know how to do that now because of the cold stratification.
We have a much better idea. Based on modern knowledge of Ferula, they need full sun, extremely well-draining soil, sandy or loamy. Propagation is tricky because they have a sensitive taproot, so it's best from seed. And crucially, yes, those seeds need about 8 weeks of cold, moist stratification to germinate properly.
Okay. Beyond just conserving F. druidiana, what about future research? Has this whole search opened up other exciting avenues?
Definitely. A really concerted effort should be made to find ancient aDNA from archaeological sites within Cyrenaica.
Where would you even find ancient plant DNA?
Maybe in things like coprolites, that's fossilized feces. Or residues inside ancient pottery. Or maybe even actual preserved plant remains if we get incredibly lucky. Even tiny fragments of DNA could potentially place silphium correctly on the Ferula family tree and definitively test this F. druidiana hypothesis one way or the other.
That would be amazing. And what about the potential for new medicines from F. druidiana or its relatives?
That's another huge area. A full phytochemical workup, basically analyzing all the chemicals of F. druidiana and its close relatives, is really essential. We need to isolate and characterize novel compounds, test them properly for all those effects attributed to silphium anti-cancer, anti-fertility, neurological effects, the aphrodisiac claims.
So we could find new drugs.
It's certainly possible. This could uncover new lead compounds for modern drug development. The Ferula genus as a whole is known to contain potent bioactive compounds. Many are relevant to silphium's ancient reputation, things with anti-tumor effects, neuroprotective effects, contraceptive activity, even things that might help with erectile dysfunction. The potential is there.
So wrapping this all up.
Yeah.
What's the big picture takeaway from this deep dive?
The story of silphium, it feels like this incredibly complex tapestry. Economics, culture, medicine, and ultimately loss.
It really is.
For centuries, it fueled a civilization. It was a staple in kitchens and medicine chests, maybe even gave us the heart symbol. And its extinction, the first one we really documented, has served for millennia as this kind of moral tale about human greed.
Right. The simple story.
Yeah.
But modern science, as we've discussed, has really complicated that narrative. It reveals this much more intricate story of ecological collapse.
Where the direct exploitation met the indirect consequences of climate change.
Exactly. Direct exploitation converging with human-induced environmental changes doomed a species that just couldn't adapt quickly enough.
Right.
And that offers a much more nuanced and maybe a much more urgent lesson for us today.
And the recent proposal about Ferula druidiana being silphium resurrected, it's ignited all this new hope, but also intense scientific debate.
While those parallels, the looks, the chemistry, are undeniably striking, the contradictory genetics and geography mean that specific identification. It seems unlikely to be correct.
That's the current consensus, yes.
So the most probable conclusion is the real Silphium of Cyrene is gone, extinct.
Right.
And F. Trudiana is this remarkable evolutionary analog,
Yeah.
our best living model for understanding the lost plant.
That seems the most likely scenario based on current evidence. But, the ultimate identity of Eftrudiana, whether it's Silphium or not, is in some ways less important than the value of this whole rediscovery process.
How so?
Because the renewed focus on this ancient legend, it's yielded invaluable knowledge. It's given us a powerful, testable hypothesis for why Silphium went extinct, that climate change angle. It's introduced this rare plant, Eftrudian, with its own promising chemical profile to modern pharmacology. And maybe most importantly, it's given us this powerful, updated cautionary tale for our own time about the fragility of the natural world, the often unforeseen consequences of environmental change, and just how critical it is to integrate deep scientific understanding with how we manage our resources.
So the search for Silphium, even if we never find the original plant itself, it keeps bearing fruit, offering these profound lessons for conservation today and tomorrow.
Precisely.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other lost knowledge, what other forgotten stories from the past might be out there just waiting to teach us something crucial?
That's a great question to ponder.